Several lawmakers are pressing for the passage of a measure that would require congressional approval for further military action against Iran. One of them is California Democratic Congressman Mike Levin, who joins me now. Congressman, great to see you. Thanks for being here. You represent an area of Southern California that is home to lots of military personnel and veterans, of course. So I know you're probably thinking about this when it comes to this issue. But the question I have is, now the president says it was a one-and-done strike, no more action is needed. Why then keep pressing for a resolution on this, have Congress be involved?
Well, Caitlin, you're absolutely right that I represent tens of thousands of Marines and sailors in and around Camp Pendleton, and I have no greater responsibility than to make sure that when we put our service members in harm's way, that we are clear-eyed about why we're doing it, what the evidence on the ground is, and what the mission is. And in this instance, there are so many questions that we still have. Congress has not received a classified briefing. It's been rescheduled it was supposed to be Tuesday at 3 p.m. Now it's Friday at 9 a.m. I certainly hope that it happens at that time. And we are receiving wildly different information about the facts on the ground, both the circumstances that led to the strike as well as the actual damage done to the nuclear program. We are all better off if Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, but we have to make sure that we are, again, clear-eyed when we go into war or when the Congress authorizes the use of military force. Under Article 1, it is absolutely clear that war powers reside with the Congress, and it's really unthinkable to me that Mike Johnson has just given away that power, saying that the War Powers Act, in his view, is unconstitutional. I think it couldn't be further from the truth, and I think it demonstrates that he is nothing more than a supplicant to the whims of the Trump administration.
I mean, on that note, I know you're waiting for intelligence briefings, but is there anything that you have seen that signals to you that further action may be needed here?
Well, I cannot share what I have seen with regard to classified information, but what I can tell you is that I have unanswered questions that we are now seeing, obviously, the public reporting around the damage that was actually done to the Iranian nuclear program, whether it was set back a few months or several years, as the president has stated. That's really important because if, in fact, the Iranians still have the capacity to be able to reconstitute a nuclear program quickly, those are facts that we need to know, particularly when the president is talking about allowing Iranian oil to go to China, for example. The administration has not consulted with Congress. They have not briefed Congress. And, all we are asking for is the recognition that we are a co-equal branch of government, Caitlin. This should not be controversial. And this is fundamentally different from what other presidents have done. One of the worst takes that I've heard out there is that somehow this is the same as what other presidents have done. It's not.
I want to ask you about something happening in California. Today, as you likely know, the Department of Education determined that California violated Title IX by allowing transgender athletes to compete against females. I'm curious, how are you thinking about this issue?
Well, I think that it really ought to be up to the sports governing agencies to determine the right course forward. I think that the federal bill that was proposed by my Republican colleagues here was a gross overreach. It would have allowed for inspections of young women and girls. I can tell you that's completely inappropriate. I would leave this to the sports governing authorities. And in general, I think there is an attack by this administration on the state of California and really on public education generally. I can tell you I'm very proud to have two kids that go to our public schools in California. I'm going to do everything I can to stand up for our public schools and for kids. Let us not forget that right now this administration is proposing tearing food and health care away to literally millions of children and families across the country. I hope everybody remembers that as well.
And Congressman, since you are a Democrat, I've got to ask you about a primary that happened last night on the total opposite side of the country. Notwithstanding, are you taking any lessons from that primary, given that someone like Andrew Cuomo was defeated and the most, progressive voice won in that primary so far, it seems?
Well, we've been talking a lot about this today, what lessons can be learned. I think for me, the biggest is affordability. That is the most important issue of the day. It has been for years now, to make sure that people can actually afford, the basic necessities. And I know that the victor in New York City ran on cost of living on things like groceries and housing. I may disagree with the details of his prescriptions, but I think the diagnosis is the right one. And that was the case also for President Trump when he was running last November. He was talking about lowering prices and addressing the cost of living for things like groceries and the rest. But now, as of the poll I saw a couple days ago, he is 26 points upside down on inflation, because the president hasn't been focused on inflation at all, far from it. And the tariffs have only made things worse.
All right, we will stay tuned to that bill that you were referencing as well, and these results too.